at some point we are going to have to do a whole show about how good this show sounds.
Hey everybody, welcome to Downballot. We do the show live every Tuesday at 7:30 p.m. Pacific right here at twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Support this project. Go to echoplexmedia.com, click that support tab, and you'll find many ways to support us. But you could also just text this to your friend or write Downballot on like a piece of paper and just tear it off and then hand it out to people on the street corner like a totally normal person would. Anything you can do. Whatever you want to do is fine with us. Make sure you're following this on your podcatcher of choice if you aren't already. And if you happen to be listening on our website, your phone has a podcast app on it. Just type podcasts into the search bar on your phone and it'll tell you. There's a wonderful world of other podcasts that aren't ours that you might like better. I'm producer Dave. You can find me on Grindr and other shows such as The Intellectual Dollar Tree, How the Tech Are You, and The Plex, among others.
And this is The Councilman. You can find me, as always, here, 7:30 Pacific, every Tuesday night, like producer Dave said. You can also find me on Twitter at @THE_Councilman for all the dirty tidbits of local derp that you want to see from this show and more. You'll also find me occasionally on the 18th floor of City Hall, lobbying or sometimes working, and occasionally in the back row at City Hall, waiting for that beautiful land use item to come up at City Council. Sometimes it takes a while, but I got snacks.
You're never at You're never at the city council meeting, like just throwing shade in the back, like, oh, what are those guys, Waldorf, and I forget his other name on the Muppets.
That's usually you're right. I actually forget the other gentleman's name too, but other Muppet's name. But that's usually what it is with me and the peeps, or the city staffers, or whatever group I'm there with. We're usually up at the back, talking smack as usual, because we know what's going on and nobody else does, and we like it that way.
So we got a bunch of new listeners last week, actually, because we were covering the election. So if you're just joining us, the first part of what you heard last week is generally what we do here on Downballot, cover some local issues. Also, what we determined during the midterm election last week is that actually everyone just lost.
Pretty much, America, San Jose, and just about everyone else.
Yeah, everyone lost. I'm getting word, and my producer is telling me that it's Statler in Waldorf.
Statler, there you go. Great call. Was that the chat? Was that the chat that came?
Yeah, that was the chat. That was the chat.
God bless you, chat.
If you do check us out live, by the way, there is a chat going on, and if you check us out live late at night or on some of the other nights, we're talking to the chat and kind of hanging out with them a little bit more. But that wouldn't make much sense to people listening on Spotify now, would it? They would be like,
really.
Who is Porta Potty Peeper?
They'll just cause them to want to tune in live, right? And to listen to the podcast. Obviously, you want to review the show in your own time and at your own leisure. But listening live just has a different kind of verve to it, and you can really interact with us. We're very pleasant people. We don't bite, and we love interacting with y'all, especially if you're spicy. So yeah, please join us anytime right here in the moment. It's a great experience, but also keep downloading the podcast and share it with your friends. The show's growing as organically as possible. So please, one person at a time, share it along.
It's so organic, it's about to gentrify your neighborhood.
It's so organic, it's being sold at Whole Foods. So please share with your friends, in all seriousness, because all politics are local, even no matter where you live, whether you're in Santa Clara County or not. So, but we tend to cover the South Bay and the Bay Area here. So without further ado, do you want to get into the docket for this evening?
Yeah, what do we got for leading off?
Well, it's been a week since said election that you referenced earlier, and there are a few local races that are still too close to call. We're going to get into those a bit later in just a minute. But first, leading off, there apparently were some shenanigans in the vote here in Santa Clara County, right here at home, and we're going to find out more about it from NBC Bay Area.
We're going to begin with that ballot bag issue. The Postal Service and the Santa Clara County Register of Voters are investigating a potentially problematic discovery. Reports of a bag stuffed with valid, completed Santa Clara County ballots in a ravine in the Santa Cruz Mountains. In a story you'll see only on NBC Bay Area, our Robert Honda joins us from San Jose to tell us what's being done.
Well, two of the people whose ballots were recovered told us they mailed them off from this post office here on Payne Avenue in West San Jose. Now, we only
I know where that is.
Discovery to the Registrar of Voters and the Postal Service late this afternoon, so those investigations are just getting underway. But this is how it started. Lou and Janet Whitkin made sure they mailed off their ballots early the Saturday before the election. But here is where it appears their ballots ended up, in a torn bag reportedly discovered off Sugarloaf Road near Highway 17 in the Santa Cruz Mountains.
How? How did it get from
the sign in the background
to Santa Cruz? Just disappointing to me that something could have transpired.
I'm interested in the facts, so wanted to see, well, what was the situation? Was it something that was dropped in transit? What were the circumstances?
Julie Neiman would like to know as well. She tells us she was riding her motorcycle to work when she spotted the torn bag and noticed the ballots. She said she feels like someone was trying to make sure the bag of ballots wouldn't be found.
They were trying to make it look so people wouldn't find them, is the way I saw it. They're dumped over the edge of the road down this deep ravine that goes pretty far, and it's very steep.
The Santa Clara County Registrar of Voters was reluctant to speculate on exactly what happened or how those ballots reportedly ended up in the Santa Cruz Mountains, but closely examined the pictures NBC Bay Area provided.
Well, it appears in the pictures that there are ballots mixed in with non-election material. So with seeing that, you would think this may have come from the postal stream somehow.
Again, both the post office and the registrar are now investigating this incident together. The registrar also wanted to remind voters you can track your ballot by going through its website to make sure your ballot ends up where it's supposed to. In San Jose, Robert Honda, NBC Bay Area News.
Okay.
Like, that's a crazy story, but I don't know, like in other news, there's a postal worker and a vehicle missing, like.
Right. Or just a bag that fell off out of a truck, or maybe someone stole. I mean, it happens all the time. Postal bags get stolen and people rifle through mail all the time. And if they don't see anything valuable, they just chuck it. Right. So
yeah, that's actually, that requires the fewest assumptions, right? Is that some postal worker had a bunch of, mail, and somebody went and tried to steal the stuff in the back of the truck, and unfortunately what they got was a box of ballots and people's electricity bill, and so that instead of just dropping it into another mailbox somewhere and hoping it ended up where it went, they're like, we're going to drive all the way up into the Santa Cruz Mountains and dump this.
Yes, so that we will not get in trouble. Perfectly rational, perfectly sane. And oddly enough, the Good Wife did a little digging, so we caught this story the other night. First of all, you notice the complaining couple, supporters of Evil Beto. We really need a sound pull for that, or pull for the soundboard for that. Evil Beto. So they're supporters of him. So a little bit sus there, but the most sus thing, the Good Wife looked up the woman who found the bag of ballots. Turns out she's like a election denier, MAGA conspiracy theorist extraordinaire. So very interesting that she's the one who found the bag of ballots. Right. So yeah, right. Self-fulfilling prophecies. Anyone? So just a curiosity. Apparently now the feds are involved, though. There was a story that just posted today that the federal investigators have been called in to investigate what transpired. So we will find out more, and we will bring you the follow-up on Downballot in the future, as we always like to do. We're one of the few local news programs that actually follows up on stories. But we have to sort of piece it together between different networks because they don't actually follow up on the stories that they bring you.
So that's interesting. I was like, she was riding a motorcycle and she's doing this in front of a boat. So I got big, I live near the water in Santa Cruz and I want to make sure everybody knows that vibes from the lady who found the ballots, but I didn't necessarily get any other kind of vibe. But she did say that the person wanted to make damn sure they weren't found. And so it seems like maybe she was trying to even if she legitimately just found them. Yeah. She was trying to feed into a certain narrative in hopes of maybe getting on a certain Mr. Rubin or a certain Mr. Carlson show.
A more nefarious scheme. Well, like I said, the feds are involved, so it's going to make national news potentially. So we will certainly follow up and let you know. But if we find out more about the young lady, we will also let you know that too. And then, of course, we'll keep you posted on Evil Beto in the very next story, in fact.
Yeah, it looks like a couple South Bay mayor races are too close to call, so we're going to get on into winners and losers and cover this story. By the end of the night, it looked to me like Matt Mahan was going to win, but maybe I was premature and tired and wanted to go to bed. Let's find out.
Entirely possible.
Well, nearly a week since Election Day, votes are still being counted now across the Bay Area. We just got updated numbers. As of 5 p.m. tonight, take a look. The mayoral race in San Jose, it's close. Matt Mahan still holds a slim lead over Supervisor Cindy Chavez. Just under 2% is Mahan's lead. In Santa Clara now, incumbent Mayor Lisa Gilmore leading over City Councilman Anthony Becker. Becker is the one who's being endorsed heavily by the 49ers. And Santa Clara County Sheriff, former Palo Alto Police Chief Bob Johnson with a slim lead over retired Sheriff's Captain Kevin Jensen. So a lot still unfolding.
When I looked at the ballot, I was like, are these the same person?
They may as well be, right? They're both cops, or at least
their names are almost the same.
The names are almost the same, both white dudes. I mean, it's really not that big of a difference when it comes down to it.
I don't care about that race. Let's see what their political analyst has to say.
Let's do it.
Analyst Larry Gersten. Larry, nice to see you. Let's start with that race in San Jose. I guess the simple question, when will...
You know how we know he's smart is he's got a globe behind him.
And many lanyards.
Raj, we may not know until the last day. I mean, you're talking about a close race. There's still about 20% of the ballots out there. It looks more and more like Matt Mahan may win because the count has been rather consistent. There's only one time.
Author of 13 books.
His lead shrunk. Other than that, he's gained a little bit every time, a little bit. And you begin to think that, well, maybe he's going to continue to gain a little bit. So at the moment, he's the favorite, but you never know where that last batch of ballots may come from. And so Cindy Chavez has to keep her hopes up, too.
So I presume both candidates aren't going to offer any concession until the final vote is certified or at least announced by the county.
Absolutely. It's too close. Now, maybe at the next drop, if there's 5,000 or 6,000 votes at that time left and one candidate's up, sure. But right now, this is the closest race I can remember in quite some time.
Well, speaking of close races, let's get to the city of Santa Clara now. What if the incumbent, Mayor Lisa Gilmore, loses here? There's some real issues about the optics of this. Do the 49ers essentially run City Hall? Would be a lot of people asking.
Well, some people wonder if it's becoming a company town, quite frankly. You know, the 49ers gave $3 million last year.
This guy doesn't know shit about the South Bay. If Santa Clara is a company town, it is not the company town of the fucking 49ers.
Well, obviously not, since their candidates, are losing, or at least their candidate for mayor is losing, and they spent millions of dollars trying to get him elected.
Right, so, but even if they get him elected, that's still not. That's not the company that there's other there's companies that employ so many more fucking people in Santa Clara than the 49ers.
There are plenty, but there are none that dominate the politics more than the 49ers do.
But like a company town doesn't mean influences politics. It means everyone who lives here works at this place.
Yes, they can. I guess in the modern sense of things, maybe not. I don't know, but yes. Traditionally, yes. When you're talking about like a mining town or a factory town, right? Like a place where they build the widgets, right? And then the widget factory shuts down and the whole town goes away, right, or dies.
There's some company you've never heard of that makes business software that employs more people in the city of Santa Clara than the 49ers do. Like, I'm just telling you.
There are a few.
It's a small city, relatively, 120,000 people, 4.5 million this year. Over 1.5 million of that going right to the mayor's race, and Lisa Gilmore holding on by just a few hundred votes. You wonder if the 49ers are going to get their money's worth. On the other hand, you kind of wonder if the 49ers ought to be in politics to the extent that they are. I'll tell you one thing, this is going to be an issue that doesn't go away, especially if all those dollars changes the complexion of city government in Santa Clara. There'll be people kind of scratching their heads over this, and it's worthwhile for discussion.
Yeah, the politicians, those names change, but the 49ers aren't going away. That's certainly the truth. The sheriff's race now, Santa Clara County, another close one. Whoever takes over this job takes over a department with a lot of drama. We're talking about the sudden departure of Sheriff Lori Smith, essentially who left in disgrace.
Right. Here you have two different candidates for the same job. I mean, Kevin Jensen grew up with Santa Clara Santa Clara County Sheriff's Department captain. He knows how it works from the inside. On the other side, you got Bob Johnson, a former police chief of a couple of cities, who knows how to run a department. You could make an argument for either one. There's a north-south dimension here, too. Johnson from the north, Jensen from the south. It's another nail biter. We seem to be full of them this time around.
Yeah, Johnson, the former police chief there in Palo Alto. Really quick, 30 seconds or less. What happens next, nationally speaking, here with one of our local members of Congress, Speaker Pelosi? Does she give up? Does she transfer here the power?
She's at a turning point, especially if the Democrats become the minority party. It may be a time for her to exit gracefully. Her husband, of course, ill from that attack. And perhaps for the Democrats to change the page and have a younger generation. So watch carefully. We'll know a lot in the next 2 months.
Aside from the Paul Pelosi attack, was this kind of in the works anyway?
She made a deal, Raj, very good. She made a deal 4 years ago to step down after 4 years. Those years are up. And with the Democrats becoming a minority as well, it augurs that kind of way out for her right now.
It's a natural progression. Thank you, Larry, for your insight and your time tonight.
I would have been more insightful than Larry.
Larry Gersten is a fucking hack, but that's okay. He'll never hear me say that because he doesn't even know how to podcast. He definitely doesn't know how to download a podcast. And he's wrong, by the way. Like, this is not the closest race he can remember in a long time. In fact, the mayor's race in 2014, the last contested mayor's race, was a lot closer than this. It was only 2,000 votes, I think, separating Sam Liccardo from Dave Cortese. And this time around, Matt Mahan's up by, I think, now over 4,000 votes. So he's more than likely going to pull this one out. And not necessarily by the skin of his teeth. These races tend to be pretty close when it comes to open seats for small city, but for city government elections, local elections, right? They tend to be pretty close because no one really knows anyone, and no one really understands what they're running for or what they're asking you to vote for them for. So they tend to be kind of crapshoots, and it's a lot of personalities and good field games and getting out there and knocking doors and meeting the community. So, we'll see what happens, but I don't think that any of these races are going to flip when the vote's counted.
So what I think I think Cindy Chavez could have probably won this. I think she's not going to, but when we watched the candidates forum, what I noticed is she didn't really do much to try to differentiate herself from Matt Mahan. She didn't lean in at all to the fact that he's a tech bro. And that she's like been working with people in the city. Like she like made one kind of snide remark about it, sorta, but that was just like, just seemed kind of like snide. It wasn't saying, hey, I have a record of city governance for you to, and county governance for you to criticize. You sold a company to Mark Zuckerberg. She goes, that's not my business. I don't know enough about that. She's like, but no, none of that. She wasn't like, you sold a company to Pinterest and Facebook, and those seem to be your qualifications. I don't know what you're doing here. Like,
yeah. And she leaned into her experience in a different way too, in terms of just basically just, relying on just saying, I have experience. I've been around. I know people, right? I've been endorsed by the entire city council except for this guy who's running against me, right? At the end of the day, she leaned into the very things that he was using to attack her, right? She's a sacred cow. She's been around, forever, right? She's been around for decades, and she's corrupt. She knows everybody, right? And she's just a typical politician, right? And I'm new and I'm fresh and I'm not a politician and I have common sense and I'm going to come and clean things up, right? You don't want someone who's been around forever. And she leaned into that. Her whole shtick and her whole motto was about leadership and experience matters. And this guy's new, doesn't even go here, right? I think you're right. She could have gone a step further and leaned into it that way and said, look, yeah, I absolutely have experience, and experience does matter. And here's why. Here's the experience this guy has that he's touting, right? But she really kind of leaned more into everything he was saying about her. And didn't, like you said, did not differentiate herself enough when it came to public safety, when it came to housing issues. They were somewhat, not in lockstep, but they weren't saying anything that was substantively different. So it became a battle of personalities. And unfortunately, Cindy has been around long enough that, she's got negatives just like anyone else who's been around a long time. And there's obviously, a sexism factor, a misogyny factor built into every race in America. So all these things conspired to make it Mahan's day to win, apparently.
I mean, the other thing is Andrew Yang could have just left her alone. That might have helped too. Like,
I don't know how much that helped or hindered, but we'll find out. We'll find out if there's a Yang gang bump one way or the other when the exit polling is. Oh wait, no, there is no exit polling. I forgot. We'll never know. Someone really needs to do some exit polling, though.
I'm actually, this is a little out there, but it will be quick. I actually wonder, like, when they talk about exit polling, I've voted. I think I skipped twice, but I've voted, and I've been to like polling places where a lot of people were, where not a lot of people were, in Fremont, in Berkeley, in San Jose, in Campbell, and I've never seen anyone doing exit polling. And I'm curious, where are they? Who's doing the exit polling, and where are they doing it? What's going on with that?
It's cost prohibitive. So polling in general is cost prohibitive, just because for local races, typically because it's just so expensive. Even if you're doing a if you want to do a proper scientific poll and get 500 responses, you're still spending something in the neighborhood of like $10,000 to do the poll, right? Whether it's text based or internet based or it's phone based. It takes time, it takes energy, it takes a lot of effort, and you're usually hiring someone to do it for you. So when it comes to a local race, where like say a city council race, where you're only really raising or spending maybe $100K if you're lucky, $10,000 is a shit ton of money. That's 10% of your budget, right? And you got to make that stretch. So more than likely you're not doing any polling, and if you are, you maybe can afford one poll, and that's it. You're not going to do tracking polls, and you're certainly not going to do exit polling where you have people you're paying people to stand outside of a polling place and talk. Now, it would be interesting to see if some campaigns wanted to organize some serious volunteer exit polling, because I would really love to know more. Maybe it's a nonprofit that does it, but I would really love to know more about the people who vote, and then vote top ticket, up ballot, right? But don't vote down ballot. I want to know more about why. I just don't think there's enough evidence to tell me if it's apathy, if it's lack of knowledge about the race or the candidates or the jobs that they're voting for, or all of the above, right? I just don't know. And I'd really like to know that. I think that would be really valuable information for us local politicos to have, because then we could figure out a way to maybe engage people a little better and get them more involved in the voting process, and have more than 60% of registered voters deciding who the next mayor of San Jose is, right? So 60% of registered voters is probably around 30% of the population, maybe 25% of the population in that neighborhood. So there you go. Is it really representative of San Jose? No. But that's elections. That's politics.
So we're going to move on now. Apparently, cops who don't have enough cops managed to detain 500 vehicles, or like impound or whatever, 500 vehicles, and arrest a bunch of people in a sideshow. But I don't know how. I thought they didn't have any cops.
We'll find out more.
Now we go from that spectator sport to a totally illegal gathering with its own spectators. In fact, one of the biggest sideshow busts we have seen in a while. We're talking about more than 700 tickets written, nearly 20 cars impounded. It happened overnight in San Jose.
That's where NBC Bay Area's Marianne Favreau joins us with how the illegal 500-car event impacted neighbors.
Police issued more than 700 citations last night after a sideshow here at Branham and Monterey Road. And traffic was so backed up that some people told us they couldn't even get back home and had to spend the night somewhere else. Burning rubber, spinning, sparks flying, as hundreds watched and shot videos of this sideshow on Monterey Road last night. Police were coordinating a response, blocking in hundreds of cars. This drone video shows just how many cars were stopped.
God, that would suck being on that bus.
Says he couldn't get home because of the backup.
I live around here and they didn't let me go in, so I had to go to a hotel and sleep because they wouldn't let me pass over there because it was blocked over there and it was blocked over there.
Police issued 720 citations to drivers or spectators and impounded 19 vehicles. They also recovered a handgun. Neighbors say they often see sideshows in this area and they worry someone will get hurt. Tonight you can see tire marks left on the street. Hip Don says he's glad police cracked down on the drivers involved.
You have to learn your lesson.
Police say several people abandoned their vehicles at the scene, including 2 cars that were reported stolen. Police also say they contacted the parents or guardians of 82 juveniles who were out here at the sideshow. In San Jose, Marianne Favreau, NBC Bay Area News.
They called mom.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess they do have enough cops.
Well, they must have had pretty much the entire patrol shift out there. If they had hundreds of cops, as they said, blockading the roads, that's a lot of black and whites. That is pretty much. I think I don't know the exact numbers, but that is got to be close to a whole watch. Full of cops. Well, citywide watch. I don't know who the hell was watching the rest of the city when that was going on.
Well, they may have gotten help from state patrol, sheriff's department.
Yeah.
Yeah, they may have gotten assistance from other organizations.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. They were the ones that were complaining last time about like the lack of whatever shared force or community force, engagement. When they had the two different murders or two different shootings in one night, right? So anyway, who knows? But yeah, good on them cracking down. I do love it. I'd love to see it. Love to see those folks trapped and having to take the citation. That's great. I wish we could do more than a citation, because this stuff is ridiculously stupid and dangerous. It's dangerous to them though, so whatever. Just don't endanger anyone else. But it's stupid and ridiculous and a waste of time. But unfortunately, that's what we do.
There used to be a couple racetracks in the Bay Area. And, maybe we should think about that again, putting out a couple racetracks.
Wouldn't it be great if we figured out ways to, legalize, sanction, and, regulate things that people want to do and are going to do anyway, right? Like the weed.
Yeah, I just remember when I was a kid, I didn't hear it from my place, but sometimes I'd spend the night at a friend's house, and it was further south in Fremont than where we lived, and we could hear the racetrack like late at night. It was kind of cool.
Oh,
and I just feel like, I don't know, we should have let's have a racetrack.
Well, I mean, if we can get a good business plan together.
Not you and me. I mean, somebody else. I just want to go to it.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I don't even drive.
The county fairgrounds is crying out for that. They are going to try and keep that space open for public, recreational use. So maybe a racetrack is something that could go on. I think they already have one out there anyway, like for something else, other kind like off-road vehicles, or I forget exactly what, but they were or motocross, but they have a track of some sort out there already. So maybe that's a possibility. Unless Matt Mahan wants to turn it into a concentration camp for homeless people.
Oh my God.
It seems to be his plan.
Yeah, I don't think Matt Mahan's going to be big on the racetrack. Oh no, we could tell him they only race Teslas out there, and then he'd be like, "Yeah, bro, did you know that like Elon Musk made an electric car, bro?"
Totally, bro. The Boring Project is coming to San Jose.
I met him once, bro. He didn't let me shine his shoes, but I met him.
Can we have a Hyperloop? I really want a Hyperloop.
They turned one of those into a parking lot.
There's actually so on side note before we go to the next story, there's an RFP, which is a request for proposal, out from the city of San Jose right now for or city of San Jose or VTA, I forget who, VTA, for options for shuttling people from downtown San Jose or from BART, basically when BART comes to San Jose, to the airport. So what does this look like? What is this thing that gets people from BART to the airport? Much like in Oakland, they have that little monorail type thing going on, right? The little shuttle from the BART to the airport. What does that look like in San Jose or in Santa Clara?
I have an idea
to get people there.
A bus.
That could be an option. It could be an express bus with dedicated lanes. That is one thing, one option.
Or just a bus. It's not like First Street is. It's not like First Street is like full of traffic all the time. Just what about a bus? Wait, no, there's already a bus that goes there. Actually,
there are buses.
So the shuttle is already there. People just need to pay the fare and get on it. It stops in a few places, sure, but like Silicon Valley keeps trying to reinvent the bus. Man, I'm telling you,
they wouldn't need to pay the fare. More likely, they're going to probably do a universal. Or put it on the Clipper card system. Who knows? But I tend to agree. They just want to make it easy for them white folk, Dave, to get from place to place. They don't want them to have to get on the bus. It's so just maudlin. They want them to. They want to get on a shuttle. They want to get on a monorail. They don't want to go on the bus.
Did you know that in real cities, people take the bus all the time?
Yes, yeah. I've done it myself when I've gone to real cities. When I've traveled to real cities, Americans get the fuck out of America. Sometime I've only done it a couple times, and I swear to God, it was well worth my 5 or 6 or 7 days. get the fuck out and see how things are in other countries. Yes, I try to take public transit wherever I go. So the subway, the bus, whatever happens to be the most convenient thing. Some cities have such amazing metro systems, rail and bus. Paris is a fine example. You can get anywhere in Paris on the bus or the rail, and there's always a stop within 2 or 3 minutes of wherever you're standing. It's fantastic. So
you don't have to go to Paris for that. You could go to some place like, I don't know, San Francisco.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's not probably not as good as the Paris system, but I mean, as long as you're not getting too far out into the avenues in San Francisco, and the tourists aren't going there anyway. So like
even LA, even Los Angeles has better transit than San Jose and the South Bay does. It's more integrated. It's more, it gets you where you need to go. It's unreal. We don't have a better transit system here in the fucking capital of Silicon Valley. Fuck you.
So it looks like what we got next is there's a little bit of trouble with the Berkeley police chief. There were some leaked text messages. I've not heard anything about this story, so let's just let NBC Bay Area tell us their version of the story.
Well, there was a cloud hanging over the confirmation of Berkeley's interim police chief. Leaked text messages are alleging a police officer made disparaging remarks about the unhoused and people of color. Now a battle is brewing over what the chief may have known about it. Here's NBC Bay Area's Cheryl Hurd.
We're just not at a point where I think anyone could have public confidence in appointing a chief without knowing the full facts of these allegations.
Nathan Mizell is the vice chair of Berkeley's Police Accountability Board. He is concerned about tomorrow's confirmation vote to make interim police chief Jennifer Lewis the permanent top cop. He says allegations that a member of the Police Officers Association made negative comments about the unhoused and people of color are giving him pause.
You have one remark about how homeless folks, could be wiped out by some sort of strain of something, and that the BPD bike force would simply, quote, ride by the bodies.
A former Berkeley police officer who was terminated for unknown reasons in August 2021 is leaking text messages to Berkeley city officials. We got a hold of the screenshots when they were made public by the advocacy group Secure Justice. Mizell says they contain language unfit for a police officer.
I can't speculate to whether she knew, if she didn't know. I don't know if the city manager knew or didn't know.
Mizell says he's also seen comments secondhand that were racially offensive. The city of Berkeley released a statement tonight calling the allegations very disturbing, saying, "We take them very seriously. We will be hiring an external investigator to verify and investigate any and all documentation and allegations arising from the complaint." Interim Police Chief Jennifer Lewis is also weighing in, saying she is making it clear that if the allegations are true, none of the alleged incidents occurred underneath my supervision. A police chief confirmation vote is set for Tuesday evening. The Police Accountability Board plans to meet before that. In Berkeley, Cheryl Hurd, NBC Bay Area News.
So if she wasn't the police chief at the time, and she wasn't like, like there's like any other organization inside police departments, there's like cliques, right? There's people that kind of hang out, they go get beer or whatever, they go violate people's rights together for fun. Like and maybe she wasn't part of like whatever good old boy network or whatever this happened. I mean, it's okay, I guess, to look into it, but if she wasn't in charge and she wasn't like CC'd on any of the text, or there's no reason to believe that she was a recipient or participating in it. I mean, fuck the cops, but like, if you're going to have them, then this lady seems like doesn't seem like it has anything to do with her, except for the fact that she worked at the police department. Maybe she should have issued a stronger statement than "I wasn't the police chief when this happened."
And Producer Dave, as always, you speak my mind, so I don't have to. But yeah, that was exactly what I was going to say. Like, her statement was the only thing that was really weak sauce and kind of loserish about this story. In that, they weren't under my supervision when these tweets or these texts were sent. That was the statement, basically. And I'm like, well, it's that. At that point, just don't say anything, right? Like, if I was their lawyer, I would advise her not to say anything until the investigation was done and she was appointed chief, and then then she can issue a statement.
Or if you're going to say something, you start with, okay, first of all, I wasn't the police chief during this. She goes, and the officers that I associate myself with don't behave this way. And one of the things that I'm going to do as police chief is try to root this stuff out of our department when we find it, so that we don't have these problems coming up where the police chief is always in front of the media apologizing for some bad cop like that. If you want to really get out in front of it, you just say, these aren't people I hang out with. I would not associate with. If I saw this text message, I would report it to my superior. There's a chain of command here that you do that. You don't just go, sorry, I wasn't the police chief. Like, get the fuck out of here.
Absolutely. 100% right. 100%. That is exactly the statement you issue. You tie it back to the underlying problem that people are concerned about, right? And it's not deflecting, it's just reframing. That's all it is. Because you're right. More than likely, she didn't do anything wrong, and she's going to make a fantastic chief. So get a hold of the damn narrative.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. Whatever you're saying, I don't know. You're speaking for yourself now.
Grab the narrative by the balls and twist it to your own will.
Yeah, if maybe, if you know who maybe they know who the officer is, and she's like, hey, that officer worked on a different, you could just be like, this isn't my friend. These aren't people I hung out with. Well, I know who these people are, and I don't hang out with them.
You can just, you don't even have to go that way. Just, I think you're like, these are not the type of cops I associate myself with. And frankly, this is the kind of behavior that I will, like you said, right into it. I will root this out. I feel that's my job as the chief, is to root out this kind of behavior. And I'm looking forward to working with our department and all the great cops we have to root this kind of crap out.
Right. If you, and if you really want to public relations it, you go, I feel like I will be given a mandate by the city, if appointed, to root this kind of behavior out. You know what I'm saying?
Right. Like I'm looking forward to having the support of the city council and the rest of the city and residents to get this job done, and so we can do this all together. Right.
And it might not even be lying. She might be like, those are shitty cops. Right.
Right.
That'd be a better statement if she just came out and she's like, those are shitty cops. Put that in the newspaper.
Dem just shitty cop. I tend to push back on the rotten apple argument. I really don't like that argument, but in this case, anyway, another fine officer, hopefully not sullied by what's gone down here. I do want to point out one thing. As again, the good wife and I were watching this story live on the news. She asked the question, why does Berkeley have a city council when they have so many goddamn accountability boards? Do they really need a city council? It's like the rental housing advisory committee and board thing,
I know why. It's because the city council, it's easier for them to just fucking be like, oh, we're gonna convene an accountability board.
Right. Like, right, let that accountability board figure it out, and you guys figure it out, and we'll do whatever you want to do, and then we'll just get reelected.
I mean, if you were going to phone it in, wouldn't you appoint an accountability board to fucking monitor the phones? Like,
I'd call it a task force, of course. Come on, get the appropriate government speak bureaucratic name for something that's not going to do anything.
All right, so we're going to move on to get your shit together, and it's been a while, but one of the main characters of this particular local news enterprise has been the Leaning Tower of, is that the financial district, or is that
Millennium?
The Leaning Tower of
it's like the new financial district. It's the Salesforce Transbay Terminal district. Basically, it's a planned development of high rises.
So it's we'll just call it the Leaning Tower of Frisco. Because I know how much people in the Bay Area love it when you call it Frisco.
Pains me.
Anyway, this is from the local news. Here comes more news about the fucking tower that they need to tear down.
Yet another change of plans for the troubled Millennium Tower. Homeowners of the luxury high-rise in San Francisco have suffered through years of changes and failed attempts to stop the leaning and sinking. Investigative reporter Jackson Vanderbecken has the exclusive update.
Here at the Millennium Tower, there's a flurry of work going on. You can see it behind me. It's designed to stop the building from sinking.
Crews are digging along Mission Street. Critical prep work needed to extend the tower's foundation to piles that were sunk down to bedrock.
but they're also digging around the corner on Fremont Street in an area that's been on hold for several months. That's because back in June, during installation of an underground wall on the Fremont Street side, engineers detected the high-rise was leaning nearly 3 more inches since the start of the year. So they proposed a new strategy. Stop digging there and prop up the tower at the northwest corner away from the lean before crews return to that wall on the Fremont Street side. But we have learned that the elaborate plan to prop up the building at the corner has been scrapped. And as you can see by that rig, crews are now back digging along Fremont Street. Monitoring documents sent to the city reflect the strategy shift. One that fixed designer Ron Hamburger told us came after crews installed
Ron Hamburger
on Fremont Street last month without noticeable impact. Resumption of shoring wall work on Fremont Street is intended to move the project towards an earlier conclusion, according to the original schedule, Hamburger told us in a statement. Hamburger said there will be constant oversight and no work will be done without his say-so. While Millennium officials say a review panel signed off on scrapping the prop-up plan, city building officials say Hamburger's team made the final call. In a statement,
they're blaming Hamburger.
Spokesman said, "We resumed work on Fremont Street a month ago without any further tilting."
They're gambling.
Geotechnical engineer Bob Pike is a longtime critic of the fix. He says what they're doing now is essentially the same digging that led to the Millennium leaning nearly 3 more inches earlier this year. Pike says the soil they're removing is buttressing the tower's foundation against more tilting. Although tilting data is holding steady so far, Pike is skeptical that will continue, given the project's troubled track record.
They simply don't understand geotechnical issues. That's why they've had one problem after another.
The Tower Homeowners Association has alerted residents to the revised strategy and the goal to hasten completion, while warning them to expect a new round of jackhammering as crews continue to dig and extend the foundation out to support piles that have already been sunk deep into the ground. Jackson Vanderbecken, NBC, Bay Area News.
Jackson has been tracking this story from day one, and he continues to break.
I feel like the people who live there need to be like, you know what, and then just bust out crowbars and just start disassembling the fucking building themselves. Like, what are they going to do? They're like, they're going to be like, what are you doing? They're like, well, we're disassembling the building we live in. Actually,
they're like, we done. This is over. We're not putting up with this no more. Like the HOA will send no more emails. We are done.
Like, not for nothing. Like, people, they're like, oh, what are you going to do? Demolish it? I'm like, no, take it apart.
Mm-hmm.
Like, there's like so many marble countertops and shit in there that you could resell. There's like panes of glass.
God, yeah.
There's that old joke about pulling the copper wire out of a building, but there's probably miles of fiber optic cables in there that could be resold. Like, just tear it apart. Part that building out like you would part out a classic car that you can't fix. Like,
if these people haven't already planned out a class action lawsuit against the landlord, I mean, I don't know what's going on in the world today. So I'm sure that the residents are gonna get some sort of recompense. Sorry, I should be leaning into the mic. I'm sure the residents are going to get some sort of recompense. I'm sure they're planning some sort of lawsuit once, but I don't know if there's some sort of trigger once every possible option has been exhausted. I don't know what their contracts say, but there's got to be a way for them to take these fuckers to court. This is ridiculous.
They just need to buy some tools. Just start
that's it. That's
like you walk into some dude's apartment. You're like, what's going on? You're like, oh, they don't know it, but we're disassembling the Millennium Tower, and we've started with my apartment. Actually, sorry about the mess. Do you want to buy some countertops? Have you seen this refrigerator? Would you like to buy this refrigerator? Look at this floor. I think we can get this floor up without destroying it. Would you like to buy some Pergo? Look at the windows. We're pulling these windows out in 3 days. Do you need some windows? They're big. This is one of the nicer suites.
Although, much like the Theranos trial and in the scandal there, I don't really sympathize so much with people who can afford one of these $1 million whatever condos, right? I'm just like, okay, sorry, really rough. I'm sure it's your third home is really suffering here. But don't imagine that they're.
I don't know. What about
they're really suffering?
What about somebody whose dream was to like own a condo in San Francisco, and they worked and worked and worked and worked and barely made the mortgage.
Already lawyered up.
Right. You know,
they
what I mean?
already lawyered up.
They're not like alms for the poor but you know, not everyone there is like a CFO of some company or whatever, you know. So, and there's people there who are renters who are just paying inflated rent on a condo somebody else owns. Now they're paying inflated rent, and there's always a fucking jackhammer outside. It's like, dude, like, I don't know. I feel like they just need to tear it down, and I don't mean demolish it. I mean, like, start taking it apart and selling the parts to someone who knows how to build a building.
Yes. That would be good. We can rebuild it. We have the technology.
Right. They're going to lose hella money anyway. But I mean, the glass on that building alone has got to be worth several $1 million, maybe tens of millions of dollars.
Yeah. Like I said, someone's getting sued at some point here. I don't know when it happens, but someone is getting sued. And I don't know if it's because they just haven't exhausted every single possible option. But anyway, so shall we head down ballot?
Yeah, let's move to down ballot watch. What's going on, and what's our first story here?
Well, ranked choice voting is a funny thing, and it can lead to some fluky elections results. It can lead to some funky election results, and it can just lead to election results taking some time. So they're still figuring out the race up in Oakland for mayor. So we'll check in and see how that's doing.
The mayoral race in the East Bay is up in the air, too. The latest numbers in Oakland are in tonight as the two top candidates battling to lead the city keep a low profile. Here's NBC Bay Area's Cheryl Hurd.
At the close of business, these are the latest numbers released by the Alameda County Registrar of Voters office tonight in the Oakland mayor's race. Lauren Taylor is slowly moving ahead with 53.31%, and Sheng Tao 46.69%, a difference of just over 2,700 votes as they try to calculate the number in this ranked choice voting race for mayor. The county's registrar says he estimates that there are 120,000 more votes remaining in this county, and they don't break that down by race, which makes it even more difficult to predict who will win. Because no one got a majority vote in this 10-person race, 8 candidates were eliminated, which leaves the 2 front runners. Second choice votes, whose candidate was eliminated, will get an additional vote. That will continue until one person gets a majority. We reached out to both candidates. Sheng Tao did not respond, but Lauren Taylor releasing this statement saying in part, "I am honored by the confidence that thousands of Oaklanders have shown in me with their votes. But there are many ballots yet to count, and the outcome of this race remains unknown." The registrar says there will not be another ballot update until Monday evening. That may be how long Oakland residents will have to wait before they know who will be the next mayor. Cheryl Hurd, NBC Bay Area News.
So yeah, ranked choice is going to take longer, right? Because you tabulate once and then you have to tabulate again if nobody gets a majority. It's just by its very nature, it's going to take longer. But I think it's better than first past the post, just one choice voting for sure. And Oakland's a good place to do it. And honestly, like, I don't know, considering everything else that's been going on in the country with the elections and stuff, with this being relatively new and it looks like it's super close, fucking good on both candidates for basically shutting the fuck up and letting everybody count the ballots.
Yeah. I think it's a fantastic example of just letting democracy play out. I do wonder in terms of the vote count, just practically speaking. Wouldn't it require in this kind of situation they would have to count all the ballots one time around the first time? And I don't know that they've been able to do that, but maybe they have in just Oakland, but who knows? But they'd have to count them all, I would imagine, before they could start eliminating like the lowest rung candidate, right? And then redistributing their second place votes. If they really wanted to get an accurate, count, they'd have to wait until all the ballots were counted and then run the whole process. The whole process would only it'd be a computer program. It would take 5 seconds. But I feel like they'd have to run all the ballots first and get all that data and then like have a computer run the ranked choice system and then spit out the winner.
I don't think you have to count all the ballots to start eliminating people. At some point, it becomes mathematically impossible for somebody to be second place. And so
perhaps
they just
so maybe that's when maybe that's the trigger. There has to be some sort of rational trigger though, because if I was a candidate, I wouldn't want to be eliminated before, unless I was mathematically impossible for me, like you said, to be successful or to stay in the race. So more than likely, I wouldn't concede until that point. regardless if I was ever in that position. I've never been that close in either of my races to worry about it. So I've gotten my ass kicked in both times out. So
I mean, that's why you're on this podcast.
That's why I'm on this shitty podcast. Truer words have never been spoken.
So this also makes a case for, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, this makes the case for computerized voting machines. I know that people hate them, but you could get a receipt.
Sure.
You could get a receipt from a computerized voting machine, right? But the computerized voting machines, you would be tabulated in minutes, seconds even, because this is doing this kind of math is like, I think your cell phone could calculate this in 45 seconds if it had all the votes.
Yeah, there's a hybrid system proposed, and some counties do use it, I think, around the country, but where it's an electronic system, so it's electronically tabulated, but you get a paper receipt if you're a voter, right? So you have your ballot or your printout of your ballot. But with mail-in balloting and distributing ballots to people's homes, unless you're doing some sort of online ballot, right, like a Google form, you're really it's hard to get around. People have to return these physical ballots, right? And you got to count them somehow. I wish that there were faster ways of verifying. Like, what actually takes the time is not so much the counting of the ballot itself; it's the verifying of the ballot's authenticity through the signature and the personal information on the ballot, on the envelope at least. And that's all done by hand, one at a time, like checking the signature against the signature that they have on file on a computer PDF. And the funny thing is, why are they not letting a computer do that as well? A human has to sit there and verify each one, whereas a computer algorithm could easily take the signature that's on the envelope, compare it to what's on file in the PDF, and spit out, yes, no, this is okay, or this is questionable. A human should review this one, right? That would be much more efficient, but there's a reluctance, like you said, in general, to computer systems doing anything associated with our voting. Even though you and I both know that a good open source system would actually be the best cure.
That's the problem, is that if you tomorrow, right? Let's say that just the city of Oakland said to the community, like, let's say they said to the open source community, by 2032. We would like to have a system in which people could vote in person on a computer or vote online through some kind of verification service. So I know a sex worker who was saying that when she goes to websites to do sex work, that her identity is verified. And she said, hey, if I can take a photo of myself with my ID and upload it to a website and it can verify my identity without like a human intervention, and it's 99% accurate, we can implement this with voting. And she's like very politically active. She was she had a thread on Twitter, but then I hit her up to ask her some questions about it. And she said, what if your ballot came with a unique QR code, that you scan the QR code, and then within 5 minutes of scanning that QR code, you have to upload a photo of yourself with your ID and then a picture of the front and the back of your ID. And then your webcam turns on and it watches you vote. And I was like,
what about all the QR codes that get thrown out the door and lost in the ravine on the side of the highway in the Santa Cruz Mountains?
But it was she was like just spitballing, right? She was like,
it's a great idea.
She was like, if OnlyFans can verify my identity in 6 hours and I can show my nether regions to people for money, we can figure this out for voting.
I like her. I tend to agree with that. Let's do it.
And
let's make it happen.
Who knows? But a city like Oakland, San Francisco, or San Jose putting out the challenge to open source software developers to put something together like this would be a good look for the city, and it might fix some things. Because one of the problems I have with the computerized voting is that it's all some contractor that has some code that they're like, oh, some other contractor audited our code, and it's like, no, fuck you. Why the fuck can't HK Perrin or Matt, who works on our shows, who's a software engineer, knows a little bit about whatever, knows a little bit about this or that other programming language. Why can't they look at your code?
Why not?
I mean, I don't know if they'd be the right ones to do it, but we know people in our circle who would be capable of doing an audit of the code or auditing parts of the code.
Yes.
And so,
yes. you have watchdogs for that. That's you have people in house that you don't just unleash a computerized voting system, right? You create the infrastructure, just like you have infrastructure for verifying the paper system. You have human infrastructure to monitor and to create some accountability and transparency for the electronic system, right? But it's not the same people. It's not these people who are just sort of flattening ballots and putting them through a machine. It's people like HK. It's like Matt. It's like yourself.
Like on the front end, on the front end, sure, you're going to be using a lot of human capital, but then afterward, maybe you freeze the code. You go, hey, this project is frozen. We'll accept bug reports, but that's it. And then we'll publish anything we've done as far as the bug reports so people can take a look at it. And the watchdog organizations aren't bogged down with but I don't know. Who knows? There's got to be some way. If my bank can verify who I am and I can send somebody fucking tens of thousands of dollars out of my bank account, we could figure out a way to let me vote on the internet.
I would hope so. But that also opens up a can of worms, and we'll get to it on another down ballot since we've got to move on here. But where does the voting line end, though, right? So if we can vote online, if there's some sort of virtual component that allows us to vote, could we vote on major issues, right, that are before, like the city council, for example? Could they get either an advisory vote or a formal vote, right, on major issues? And like here, everyone, it's Tuesday night.
I don't see why city councils don't do it anyway. Because that's not even a vote, right? I don't see why they don't.
They do surveys. They do community satisfaction surveys and citizens and resident surveys. So there is something in that realm. So anyway, more to come. Shall we head over to SF and see what's going on with their replacement for Nice Beto?
Yeah.
Or
not even
criminal
nice.
Justice Reform Beto?
Yeah. We'll just call him Chessa.
Poor Chessa.
We're on a first name basis.
We miss you, Chessa.
Looks like Brooke Jenkins, who I believe is the incumbent, who was appointed by the mayor after Chessa was removed. She's declaring victory in the district attorney's race. Now the headline here from the news is a little fishy because it's like, was the race called or is she just declaring victory? We will find out in just a moment.
Yeah.
Maybe too soon to declare victory, but even so, San Francisco Mayor London Breed and District Attorney Brooke Jenkins are doing just that. They say the votes so far show the voters have given interim DA Jenkins the role of the city's top cop. Here's NBC Bay Area's Sergio Quintana in San Francisco.
San Francisco Mayor London Breed and District Attorney Brooke Jenkins toured a few shops in Chinatown to encourage people to visit during the holiday shopping season. But the silk robes and jewelry they browsed through weren't nearly as shiny as the smiles they have on this day after elections. In fact, San Francisco District Attorney Brooke Jenkins declared the race is over.
At this point, based on the numbers, we are at the point now where we believe we can declare a victory in this race.
According to the latest tally from the San Francisco Department of Elections, Jenkins is ahead of her closest challenger, former police commissioner John Hamasaki, by nearly 19 points. But there are still 104,000 ballots left to be counted in San Francisco. In a statement, Hamasaki says he's not conceding, saying there are still over 100,000 voters whose votes haven't been counted. Declaring victory at this stage is disrespectful to the voters and our democratic system. Jenkins is still taking the victory lap and thanking voters who supported her at the ballot box.
They truly understand, I think, that we can have both. We can have somebody who implements the necessary reforms that we need to make the system more fair, but also still ensures that there is accountability for those who choose to commit crimes in our city.
This walking tour of Chinatown is a chance for District Attorney Brooke Jenkins to savor the lead she has in her particular race. It's also a chance for Mayor London Breed to celebrate the performance of the people that she's appointed to open positions in city government. In addition to District Attorney Jenkins, 5 other Mayor London Breed appointees are ahead in their respective races, including Supervisor Matt Dorsey, 3 members of the San Francisco Unified School Board, and a community college board member.
I think what it says is that people in San Francisco, they want us to work together. They want leaders to focus on the problems of the city.
The last release of voting results from the San Francisco Department of Elections was late last night. The next batch of results will be released tomorrow, and the final results won't be certified for weeks. In San Francisco, Sergio Quintana, NBC, Bay Area News.
So the guy's statement was a little weird, saying it's disrespectful to voters. I'd just be like, hey, I don't, we have ranked choice here. I'm not, I'm not ready to concede. We'll see what happens. It looks things, and then you just go, hey, things aren't looking good, but let's see what happens.
Yeah, no need to go there at this point, especially if you're behind. But it does appear all signs are pointing to Pertickens being elected to permanently replace Chesa. So looks like London Breed is getting her wish and is slowly asserting her will over San Francisco politics. Very interesting developments. And we'll see what Miss Breed is looking at as far as the future herself, because she's obviously angling for something. So we'll see what's on her mind as things transpire over the next few years. But she's certainly racking up some victories, as much as some folks maybe in the more progressive community are a little tenuous and not very, and a little sus of her maybe. So we'll see.
So real quick, we have another thing on the docket, but I want to, what we're going to do is skip for now the city council open forum, and I want to give that to the patrons. Reason being, I don't want to rush through it, and our local love guest is actually running a little bit late. So this gives me an opportunity to not just run music for 45 minutes or whatever. So we're going to go ahead and get to the city council meeting after we do and another thing and read out the show. Councilman, you're welcome to stick around. You're welcome to dip. You're welcome to stick around for a few minutes and then dip. Just don't show us your genitals, and I think we'll be fine.
I'll try very hard to do that. But since I threw it on the docket, there's a couple choice comments from today. It's just a few beautiful open forum comments from today's council meeting. I thought it was a late addition to the docket. So
we're going to get to we're going to get to another thing. We usually have a human interest story, but it looks like this week it's another round of car versus building.
Yes, is it Sunday yet? Demolition Derby time, right here on Downballot. We do this every other week when there happens to be a car that ran into something. So today it's a home that got run into for the second time in 2 years. So they're not really approaching that home on Jackson with the 28 collisions, but they're getting there. Honorable mention.
ABC 7 News reporter Ryan Curry spoke with family who is contemplating moving.
And this is the exact same path, both exact times, just straight up.
Seth Orvis walks us through the damage to yet another crash into the lower level of his house. In July 2020, a drunk driver crashed into the downstairs office, leaving tons of debris and months of repairs. And now this week,
wife and kids were having dinner up in the kitchen up there, and about 7 o'clock, they heard what sounded like a bomb downstairs.
Another crash. He says this one involved an Uber Eats driver who didn't possibly see the street well enough and crashed into the same room as the first driver. Thankfully, in both incidents, no one was hurt.
She couldn't believe that another car could have possibly come inside the house again, and she came down here, and there was a Ford Mustang in our office.
Now the family is demanding safety measures get put in place on his street. His home in the Orinda Hills are full of narrow, windy roads with little streetlights and traffic signs. And right in front of his house is a three-way intersection with just one stop sign. That leads right into his driveway.
They don't the speed limit is supposed to be 20, 25. I know there's signs right down the street that make them slow down to 15, but there's nothing here.
We reached out to the city of Orinda. We are waiting a reply. Orvis says if he doesn't see anything change on his street soon, he and his family will consider moving.
There's got to be something that's done here. I mean, my wife doesn't want to live it. We want to move because this is crazy.
Orvis says it took 7 months to repair the damage from the first crash. And then a year later, the second crash happened. He fears if no safety improvements are made on his street, a third crash will happen.
Do we put a huge boulder? Do we put a gigantic tree? We're talking about gates. But I don't know. I don't know if that's going to deter any cars from coming here.
In Orinda, Ryan Curry, ABC 7 News.
I like how you use the word deter. Like, no. That would physically stop using physics. The car would just crash into something else.
Yeah. No, the other guy had on Jackson Street down here in San Jose had bollards like installed and rocks and all these things and a moat, and he still had cars ramming into his house apparently. So, I mean, know that anything's going to stop it.
Not for nothing. They're. I don't really feel too sorry for these people because what do you think? That house is like in the Orinda Hills, and it was a fairly large house. Looked like that a little circular driveway and stuff. They'll be all right.
They're doing just fine for themselves, for sure. But they had to expect, people are just nuts these days, man. We've got we can see from our home 2 or 3 stop signs along the street here, and there's a couple of them. People just blow right through it. They don't even, after a certain hour, they don't care. Just not slowing down. They know it's there. It's not like they're missing the sign. They just blow right through it. And it's going to take someone dying for things to change. But that's a known. When you buy a house like that, you're spending that kind of money. If you're not looking around the neighborhood and thinking like, well, this is kind of sus. I don't know if I like this so much that we're like at the end of this street and, you can hardly see the stop sign, and at night, yada, yada, yada. I mean, that's just a known. So sorry. It sucks it happened twice, but I'm not really crying for them.
So, and I mean, if they move, they're going to get good money for their house. It's going to be fine.
Yes.
And
yes.
I don't know. Somebody else can put what was that? Ed 209 from RoboCop. Maybe Matt Mahan can help them build an Ed 209 to put in front of their house.
You have 10 seconds to comply. Yeah, we shall see. But in this episode of vehicle versus building, it looked like vehicle won.
Yeah,
It looked like the vehicles came out much less scathed than the house. The house was much more scathed.
Yeah, that sucks. They did have kids, and I think if you have kids and that happens to your house a couple times in a year, you're like, I'm out of here. I fucking totally understand. I just don't think that they're gonna have a hard time getting another house. I think they'll be okay.
They might have to downsize from 5 bedrooms to 4.
Or they might upsize and move like out of the hills. They might get a bigger house in the flats.
There you go. They're into flats. Well, producer Dave, you want to read us out?
Yeah. Thank you. I usually say that to other people. This has been Downballot. This is our weekly look at the local news. If you checked out the podcast, thank you. You can also check out all of our shows live, twitch.tv/Echoplex Media. Go to our website and get our schedule. It's on our homepage. More or less correct. Sometimes we do take a night off, but you'll figure that out when you get here. And if you find that we've taken a night off, you can just go watch, I don't know, somebody else or Netflix or go outside and do something cool. Councilman, thank you for joining me once again this week. We'll be back with a little bit of post game. We're going to take a look at the San Jose City Council Open Forum this week. And later this evening, we do have a local love. River from Panhandlers Union will be joining us. Panhandlers Union does, in fact, make the theme song for our most popular podcast, The Intellectual Dollar Tree. So it'll be nice to have him in here. And maybe we'll get a live rendition of it. This is Locals by Audible Smoke. I'm going to change the color of the lights, grab myself a cocktail, and we'll be back with just a little bit or maybe a lot of post-game.
Adios.
And if you're listening to the pod and you want that, patreon.com/Echoplex.
Time to get the party started. Pick up my phone just to check and see who's calling. Dress up real nice for the ladies at the bar, and I'm driving in my car just to get to where they are. Here at the local scene is where I plant my feet. It's where I smoke my cigarette and I hold my drink. I look at all my friends, they're all blazing green. Here at the front of the stage, waiting for MTV. Where are those guys who's standing next to me with a pipe in his hand, ready to blaze for me? About 5 minutes later, we're all singing Queen. Now get the fuck up on stage and rock the scene. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Enjoy that band. I turn and head back to the bar for a refill, man, because you know where we are. We're headed out to the car to smoke another one and another one. Now just when the magic starts kicking in, I hear relapse playing, you know it's time to head in. Alright everybody, now it's time to grab a new drink, spark it if you got it, and then pass it to me. Yeah, we do what we want, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band, enjoy that band. Last up on the bill for the show tonight is Down and Dirty and 5, so we're headed outside to spark up another joint. Now who's got my lighter? Stoner E, of course, shouldn't you be inside? I'm all up in this bitch, being who I gotta be. I'm fucked up like the U.S. economy. The truth is that I don't think logically. Stoner E take you on a psychedelic odyssey. Now inside motherfuckers is rockin' me, and outside shit we smoke a lot of broccoli. Rocky the roller, yo, that sexy girl be jockin' me. Ain't too drunk to fuck, but I'll probably do it sloppily. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band, enjoy the band, enjoy the band. We do what we want to do, and what we want is to jam. So sit back and enjoy the band. Molly say that he like jamming, and he hope he like jamming too. Well, I gotta say thank you, Bobby, too. Yes, I gotta say thank